Hey everyone, Tom here from Beneath the Skin. As you may know, we recently did the Bristol Tattoo Convention themed around our O Ikesaki project in collaboration with Lonesome Olivia Dawn, Josh Davies and Darren Quinn. Now, if you've been following along, you will know that we also created a book for this project, which is now available on our online shop at beneaththeskinshop.com. We ship worldwide. This is an incredible piece of history that you can have in your collection. We've also restocked our Jesse Knight Best of books. If you're interested in purchasing this book, you can check out the link in the description of this episode or check out beneaththeskinshop.com. Orders are going out tracked internationally and domestic. Check it out and enjoy the show.
Hello, Matt here. You're listening to Beneath the Skin, the show about the history of everything told through the history of tattooing. As always, when you hear my voice at the beginning of an episode, it just means Tom is not here. He is gallivanting around the world. I think he's gone to Ireland actually to visit his family. But, you know, as always, I'm here, stalwart that I am, carrying on the show. And actually, for once, you haven't just got to listen to me drone on for an hour. I'm here with an amazing guest, someone who we have been meaning to get on the show. Literally since before we started, we were talking about people we wanted to talk to. And, you know, as regular listeners will know, I'm very disorganized. So finally we got around, we found time in the schedules and to invite the incredible Tanya Buxton, tattooer extraordinaire. Welcome to the show, Tanya. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for the brilliant intro.
in your new bachelorette pad.
Yes, my new bachelorette pad, complete with bright pink curtains.
Incredible. Very on brand for you, as we'll talk about, I suppose. So I'm sure some listeners will know your work. As I was just saying to you before we started recording, I'm such a huge fan of what you do, and we've chatted before, but only through the medium of, or the intermedium of BBC News presenters. So you are, I guess, like primarily known, is that fair to say, for your amazing kind of reconstructive post-mastectomy, post-top surgery tattooing? Would that be a fair summary?
I would say, yeah, that's probably what I'm next for, or the medical. So
it's, as my partner and I were watching old episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race yesterday, the Bimini Von Boulash snatch game, where she's playing Katie Price and says, "Hello, woo, the nipples are the eyes of the face." And I was like, that is a perfect intro for interviewing Tanya tomorrow.
That is the new tagline.
I know, the nipples are the eyes of the face. So I guess actually, so before we get to tits, which we will get to, you're an incredible tattooer in your own right. Like, what's your story? Like, how did you? You're based in Cheltenham in the west of England. Like, how long have you been tattooing? How did you get into it, or what's your story?
It's a bit of a boring story because it's all
no such thing.
I've always wanted to tattoo. That's even from being little. Apparently, that's what I used to tell my mum I was going to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've just always been fascinated by it. Always been quite creative, and I always liked the idea of special effects makeup as well. So,
really?
Yeah, I think I'd have always done something a bit creative. And
did your family have tattoos?
My dad is covered in them.
Is he?
Yeah, you know, he's got like the swallows on his chest and like naked women on his arms, and
right,
you know, the old school gypsy heads with the butterflies now, and like all the proper old Sailor Jerry style stuff. So I think that's probably where it's come from. And
so did you go to art school? Did you study like special effects makeup? Like what was the route into the industry? Because there's plenty of people who say they want to be tattooers, and then plenty of people that realise that they don't really want to be tattooers. But then, you know, it's also one thing saying you're going to do it and then actually starting out. So like, how did you actually start?
It's funny you should say that. I always say to people, I think there's a difference between liking tattoos and liking tattooing.
Oh, this is a thing that we say this is a thing that Tom and I say all the time.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. But I obviously did art and stuff at school, and then I went off to college, and I did graphic design off the back of a teacher's recommendation, and I hated it.
My art teacher told me to stop, so you know, and rightfully so.
Like, art was the only lesson I went to in my later years of school. I was a little bugger. So my art teacher liked me, but every other teacher hated me.
Well, you proved them right. not the ones that hated you, the ones that liked you, I mean.
I got there in the end. So he recommended I did graphic design, but I just didn't like it. It was too... Yeah. It wasn't like free enough, if you know what I mean.
No.
I did sort of go off to uni, and so I did like the HND, and then I did go to uni and do it as well. And I also did fashion studies at uni.
Right.
But again, I just wanted to draw the outfits. I didn't want to learn how to sew. That didn't work out either. So I didn't even finish my
some of the greatest fashion designers in history can't sew. They were just about the drawing, the art outfits. Yeah, Elsa Schiaparelli, like one of the greatest knitwear designer of the 20th century, couldn't knit.
No way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to learn how to like sew a pocket, or I just was not interested. I just wanted to do all the outfits. So I actually got thrown out of university before I could.
Oh, did you? Amazing. Oh, in your first year? That's tough.
Yeah.
As a university lecturer, I can tell you that's hard to do. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah. My greatest achievement so far.
Had you been tattooed already, though, when you went to uni?
No. So obviously I wasn't of age. I got my first tattoo at 18. Mm-hmm. So I approached tattoo studios when I left school, which was a very long time ago, and obviously was very different. And I think for a young girl, it was very male dominated then. Obviously, it wasn't received.
I think particularly, you know, in the regions, as they say. I think I think tattooing in places like London and maybe even Manchester and stuff was getting a bit more. Was a bit more cosmopolitan. It always has been, right? But I know that towns like Cheltenham or towns like, I remember, even where I was in Chelmsford, or, like basically towns that weren't big cities. I think there was one or two tattooers, and they were all, old geezers that had been tattooing since the 80s or even longer than that, by and large.
Well, right? I'm actually from a little town near Nottingham, so I'm not from Cheltenham.
Are you? Yeah.
Yeah, even though the accent's
I should have picked that up. And, you have got a little bit of a Nottingham accent.
Yeah, it's like a weird Nottingham Cheltenham mashup.
Yeah.
So it was like that. It was obviously small town, small studios, and I wasn't 18 anyway, so I couldn't even be in there. And then I tried again at 18 to sort of get an apprenticeship. Wasn't successful. And then I was just enjoying being a teenager and pissing about, if I'm honest. I worked in bars and hospitality and just had a good time. And then it was, how old would I have been? 22, I think. 21, 22. I just met some lads. I was working at a pub for a friend, just covering a shift, and met the local tattoo lads and just got chatting.
Right.
And I ended up being like the Saturday girl. I just used to go in there for free, just work the desk, took it all in. Eventually they let me sort of tattoo my own leg and do bits and bobs. But I just kind of, it was quite a slow start to my tattoo career, I guess. I think, I sort of quickly realised I could either be in this small studio, and I'll always be grateful to that studio. It got me into tattooing, but, I wasn't learning things properly, and it was, a typical small town.
Again, such a classic story, I think, of lots of people, certainly my age, and I think you're a bit younger than me. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
39.
Yeah, you're a little bit younger than me, but not that much. So I think people of our age, I think that's a very, very common story, actually. Some of the, people working in those kind of mid-level provincial shops and, realising that very quickly they want to do something else.
I think it was as things were changing, the industry was changing at that point, I feel. It was sort of 2008-ish.
Yeah.
So like all Miami Ink and all that was coming out. So tattooing, I feel it was starting to progress where it is now. But,
Yeah.
you know, the smaller studios in the smaller towns were definitely still very old school, if you like.
Yeah.
And I just sort of thought to myself, I can either do this where I am and I'll probably get by, but that isn't what I wanted. I wanted more. I wanted to be really good. I wanted to know everything. And I wanted to be as good as I could. So I found myself another apprenticeship. I basically searched high and low for somewhere else, and eventually found a studio near Derby. And I used to go there once a week, and I would clean a week's worth of grips.
Oh wow! Oh, you are there with the toothbrush, are you? Like in the ultrasonic.
Yeah.
Wow.
Proper old school. Yeah, it used to take all day. So I used to go there once a week, clean all the grips, and then he'd sit with me at the end of the day and go through my drawings or like the tattoos that I'd done because I was still doing my Saturday at this other studio. I took I had an office job, I think, at the time. I took a day off to go and do the cleaning midweek at this other studio. But he was very like, I haven't got time for an apprentice. This will never be an apprenticeship. But, you know, you just carry on worming your way in, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I think that's, again, I think people, you know, obviously I'm not someone who's a tattooer and never have been, you know, but people do occasionally ask me, like, how do I become a tattoo artist? And it's like, well, that's your story, like, is the way, I'm sure there are other ways that people do. I mean, I know there are other ways that people do it, but I think, like, that story is the way that pretty much everyone of our generation, I think, who's still around, like, learn to do it, right? Like, just sort of hanging around and making stuff a bit of a pest and asking the right questions and being interested. I mean, you mentioned your drawings. I wanted to ask you about, it's a nice little way for me to segue onto your drawings, because, like, it's interesting that you said you trained as a graphic designer, because, like, some of your, so obviously your areola tattoos we'll talk about, but, like, your stuff that isn't that, it doesn't strike me as particularly graphic. Like, you have quite a really interesting kind of painterly style, or you know, I don't know how you describe your art style or your drawing style and how that developed, because I mean, it has a sort of graphic-ality. Well, it has a graphic-ality to it, but it's not like your work is. There's a kind of finesse to it that I think is quite unusual for people that have got graphic design backgrounds. You know what I mean? Like, there's a
design, so that might be why.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I think it's developed over the years. So when I first started tattooing, I loved all the old school trad. Like, that was what I was about. So, like, all like the old Sailor Jerry stuff, like just all that real proper old trad stuff. That was what I loved. And then I just think as tattooing progressed and my skills obviously progressed, and just new stuff was coming about, wasn't it? Like neo-trad came about. Yeah. And I really liked that. So I became very influenced by all like the neo-trad stuff. But I just think there was a lot, actually, that was also weirdly quite a kind of Midlandsy style, right? Like Joe Harrison in particular in Birmingham, like there was a sort of Midlands neo-trad vibe at that time. Yeah, like Dawny was like...
Dawny, I was about to say, yeah. We all love Dawny, yeah.
Yeah, oh, I love her. She's like a real good friend of mine now. But, you know, like when I first met her, I was like, oh my God, as if like my icon is my friend.
Like Becca... My really good friend Becca Marsh was working there, sort of doing a sort of almost second apprenticeship at Modern Body Art at that period. Like, there was a real sort of hub of really interesting,
there was a lot
sort of neo-trad stuff happening.
Yeah,
around it, Birmingham, Nottingham, Derby.
Yeah, and like female artists as well, I feel.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you know, like when I was an apprentice, like Joe and Dawny and Fiona Long. Teresa, all like, again, Midlands, they were like becoming quite big names in the industry, which was almost a bit, you know, it was new that women were in, you know, big players.
Prominent.
So very influenced by all of that. And I think just taking inspiration from other things as well. Like, you know, I really like Art Nouveau stuff. I really like, you know, like fashion still. So like Alexander McQueen and Vivienne Westwood. Like, you know, you just take little things, don't you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love like street art. So, and
I mean, but you have a real, it's interesting you said you sort of started off doing trad stuff, because you have a real solid, like your again your some of your stuff super technical, but actually your non reconstructive tattooing is just, it's so well constructed. Like the line work's really solid. Even when you're doing stuff that's not trad, it has a kind of, the line works there, like the negative space works. Like it's a lot of people try and do that kind of stuff and don't do it very well because they don't understand the basics. And it's really, I didn't know that you had that real, like that kind of apprenticeship. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was really lucky with my second apprenticeship. He took me back to the beginning. I think one of the first things he made me read was one of Guy Aitchison's books. I forgot the bloody name.
Yeah.
But obviously he's like a messiah, isn't he? And he's all about, contrast and flowing with the body. And like, Andy at Monkey Do is where I did my second apprenticeship. And, at the time I was like, oh, he's being so horrible and he's making me don't want to do it. But I'm like, you know what? I still like set up the way he taught me. I still break down what he taught me. He was a really good mentor. So I think I was really lucky that I found a studio that did teach me and put me on the right path, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And again, I think there's a lot of people that skip all of those steps now. I mean, always were. I don't think it's necessarily a new phenomenon, but like I think, yeah,
people
definitely.
are doing tattoos that are going to look shit in 6 months' time, just because it looks good for Instagram. Maybe don't get me started.
Yeah, exactly. No. I think this is exactly what we're here for, and I mean, again, I totally agree, because this is exactly what we're here for. And I think you're right, and you see people just skipping that step, and they want to just start doing their own thing on skin, or they want to start, they're not starting from the bottom and working the way up. And I think, given the kind of technicality of what you are now known for, like the real technicality of it, both in terms of the realism of it, the pictorialism, but also on the kind of skin and stuff you're working on, I think if you hadn't have had that background, I think you wouldn't be as good as you are. I mean, that's kind of, I guess, a given. I mean, so maybe we can talk about that. Like, so how did the nipple reconstruction stuff come about?
So I've worked with scars from the beginning of my career, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Because a lot of tattooers would always refuse to do them, right? Like, it was all something that I think some tattooers would be a bit worried about doing.
I think, again, like the studio that I was in, like Monkey Do was real. I mean, it is still a busy studio now, but it was really busy. So to be an apprentice that had a 6-month wait list was like really unheard of. So I was almost forced to, it instilled really good habits in me, because it made me more organised. I had to organise my drawing time, and it got me used to being busy, if that makes sense. But I also was given real big custom pieces. Some of them were probably out of my comfort zone, to be honest. Like, it did push me and it challenged me. So I probably was given things as an apprentice that maybe, people in other stages of their career would have been a bit later on. So that I think that was a positive thing. But I've always been very aware of like how tattoos can make people feel as well. And I don't know, I always wanted to do the cosmetic tattooing. So like, I love makeup. I always wanted to learn how to do the tattooed makeup, but obviously tattooing was like my first thing. So I dedicated myself to that first. But I just wanted to know everything. I think this was the thing. I wanted to know about skin. I wanted to know what was in the pigment. I wanted to know, like, why does it turn a different colour over time? Why do the lines get bigger over time? I wanted to know all of it, and I was so hungry for it, because
how does it work? I mean, I
as well. Like,
I meet tattooers who don't really understand how tattoos work. You know? Like, which is fine. They don't have to. But I think it's really interesting that that curiosity and that kind of desire, as you said, to kind of really understand what's going on is not the way that everybody approaches the task.
But I think that's what makes you good at your job. Like in anything, if you're a hairdresser, you need to understand the structure of the hair follicle, and like you could be a good hairdresser or you could be a great hairdresser, and the difference is like all that knowledge that you have, sort of thing. But it was through the cosmetic tattooing, like doing the permanent makeup, that the medical stuff kind of developed from. So
really interesting.
I think just being a tattoo artist, people had a bit more trust in me for specialised things. So, you know, like people that had gone through chemo and had lost their eyebrows and wanted their eyebrows tattooing on, or, you know, like alopecia. And I've worked with a lot of kind of burns victims as well, like restoring their eyebrows and their lips and things. So I just feel like it was a bit of a natural progression. Like an unexpected progression, but that was kind of how it happened. And that was just how I started learning about the nipple tattooing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, like a lot. So we did a whole episode, Tom and I, about the history of cosmetic tattooing, because actually, historically, they're very interconnected. Like the first people doing cheek rouging and eyebrows. Yeah, exactly. It was tattooists, because that was the way to get a different client base. It was a way to get, you know, charge more money. It was a way to get in the papers, you know. And then this sort of, you know, the 2010s, you know, microblading permanent makeup thing came in, and people were doing it who weren't tattooers, who didn't even understand it even was tattooing. I think that's kind of a bit of a shocking thing, that people, you know, sometimes people don't even realize they are being tattooed. And then there's this almost like the opposite now, where those people who've learned to do eyebrows are now trying to do like micro tattooing, and they're trying to actually become tattooers, and it's like, oh, this is the wrong way around. So I think it's like, yeah, well, you're in this really good legacy, I think, right, of that, of understanding the tattooing process first, and then applying it to make to the cosmetic tattooing, which is, as you said, where it started from.
I think when I got into cosmetic tattooing, I was one of the very few tattoo artists that were doing it as well, and was advocating the fact that this is tattooing and you need to kind of respect that it's tattooing, because again, like for me, it was just a money making thing. All these permanent makeup companies that were doing these trainings with beauticians, learn how to do eyebrows in 2 days. Like, it's micropigmentation, it's not tattooing, it's not as deep as tattooing. It's all bollocks. Like, if that pigment heals in the skin, you've done a tattoo, and it's the same level in the skin. Like,
it's not as deep in the skin unless it is, and then it is, and then you're in trouble. Yeah.
So it was. I think that was a bit of a turning point in the permanent makeup industry, I think, and they have embraced it a little bit more now. And I think, and then, like you say, now people are doing their little tiny.
I mean, how did you approach? So, you know, maybe those first couple of reconstructive tattoos, because again, you're not like your mainstream portfolio, if you like, isn't like, you know, photorealism, right? The style and the technique, even to me, seems quite different. So how did you approach, like, maybe like the first time someone asked you to do it and you said, okay, I'll give it a go? Like, how did you approach that? Because it's a big ask, isn't it? Like, it's quite, as you said, it's quite an emotional thing.
Yeah. I was lucky.
Do you remember the first person to ask you?
Yeah. It was a lady called Dorette. She was amazing. And it actually went viral on Twitter, her tattoo.
Right.
So her niece posted the tattoo, and it went viral on Twitter. And
the first one you did?
One I did, and it's just been mental ever since. Like,
incredible.
So, it was kind of, I was just offering them like for free. That was always.
So you wanted to do it. It wasn't like she said, "Can you do it?" and you said, "Oh, I'll give it a go." You were thinking, this is something this is the next step for me.
Yeah, I think I'd just been through doing like the cosmetic stuff. Obviously, I was hearing about it more with particularly, obviously, my cancer clientele, and then hearing that it was being done like within the hospitals by the nurses, and, you know, people were sort of not happy with what had been done, and then finding out that, you know, people had been trained by these nurses, had been trained by permanent makeup companies for like a 2 or 3 day course.
Is that really what it was?
Yeah.
No way. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there was a permanent makeup company that approached me and asked if I would come and do their areola training, because I think they kind of wanted to try and break the tattoo market, if you like. So all this had been whirling around with me and my own clientele, and then this sort of happened at the same time. And, you know, when you're a bit like, I don't feel like this is different, but let me go and see what it's about.
Yeah.
So I attended this training, and there were 3 NHS nurses on the training as well, and it was a 3-day course, and then off they went.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
it was mad.
3-day course for people who had no training in anything other than, I guess, being
no,
a nurse. So they understood infection control and stuff, but there was no graphic or artistic or
no, nothing. No.
Wow.
And like there was a lot of things that it lit a fire in me, if I'm honest, because like one of the nurses was like cried because she was like, the hospital have paid all this money for me to come and do this training. I don't think I can do it. Like this is because it's like a fucking minefield, isn't it? And
so what were they what were they learning to do? I mean, like what?
Like tattooing the nipple.
I honestly, I didn't know that. So like,
yeah, it's mad.
But so what were they? But what were they like? What's like day one? Okay, gals, like we're here now. Pick up your like. I'm sort of blown away by that.
So it was like like fake skin practice. And they were given like a formula. They were like, "Oh, do these tornado circles first, and then do this." And like, yeah, no mags were used.
Hey, are you enjoying the show? If you really like Beneath the Skin and you want to help support us, you can do so on Patreon. For little as £5 a month, you can help make this show possible, help us buy research materials. So if you like the show and you want to support us, consider kicking us a few quid a month, and you'll get everything from bonus episodes to Q&As, and you can even vote on what tattoo I'll get when we reach a certain subscriber count. Matt, have you got anything to say?
You should really definitely fund the Patreon, because tattoo history is massive, right? Deep, wide, complicated. We're covering some big hit topics on the main feed, but on the Patreon subscriber only feed, we'll be getting into some really more interesting, niche, deep topics you don't want to miss out on. And honestly, the chance to kind of decide what Thomas gets on his body is probably just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Subscribe, chuck us a few quid. Don't miss out on the chance to ruin Thomas's body forever.
I mean, I'm just trying to think, right? Like, obviously, I, as we've just established, cannot draw. Like, if someone said that to me, like, okay, go ahead now. It would look like this. Like, I just do 2 concentric circles, Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, is what a lot of patients receive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah. And it's sort of, it's not, I think that, I think the NHS has had a bit of a like backlash over it, if you like, by the industry. But for me, I just think if they've been trained by a big company that's told them this is how you do it, and
of course, it's not their fault.
In a few days, like, of course you're going to believe them. I would, if someone said to me, "Oh, I can teach you how to for a wall in half an hour," I'd be like, "Oh, okay, sweet." Like, you don't question it, do you? So I don't think it's the NHS that we need to be bad mouthing. It's the people that have trained them.
Yeah.
And it's it just
Wow.
it's all snowballed, if I'm honest. Like, just witnessing this training and like what wasn't in it. Like, there was no colour theory. There was so much misinformation about tattooing. The actual trainer was like, yeah, tattooing goes deeper. And I was in my head, I was just like, no, it fucking doesn't. Like,
no. Especially not on scar tissue.
So much misinformation. It was mad.
Were they using tattoo machines, or was it done single needle?
It was done with like PMU devices, which is basically like it's a rotary, but just a shit cheap version of a rotary.
Oh my God.
That they charge like 3 times more for. Yeah, so I obviously took my tattoo machine and my needles and stuff, and we had models. And I was just like, can I just tattoo them how I want to tattoo them, please? And like, she let me. She was like, yeah, like, she knew I was a tattooer, so she was sound, the trainer. So I just did my thing, if I'm perfectly honest.
Wow, you went in, and that is such a ballsy move to go in and like, hey, trainer, step aside.
By this point, though,
yeah, of course you did.
Yeah, I felt really strongly about what was being done. And I aired my opinion at the end of it as well, because I said it for a bit of feedback, don't they? But I think I then had my first lady at my studio, and she was a black lady, and there was no colour theory in that training, and it was like a light bulb moment. I was very aware of it while we were there, that there was only pink ink there. But as I was tattooing my lady,
God.
in my head, I was just like, these nurses aren't going to know what to do. They're not going to know what to do with a different skin colour. They're not going to know the colour theory. They're not going to know how to approach that skin because it's different. And
yeah,
that was it then. I was so fired up about, because it's one thing to do like a tattoo badly, you know, be a scratcher in your kitchen and do a shit tattoo. It is quite another to do like a restorative, like medical tattoo on somebody who, you know, this impacts their life and their well-being. And to put that in the hospitals, to know, you've got me going. I just feel like, you know, that you haven't trained those people properly and you are really affecting people's lives.
Yeah.
And I just think it's too important.
Because the whole point of doing it, right, for I'd say probably, I'm guessing, right, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing the majority of people who come to you for this are doing it for some kind of sense of body image and some kind of sense of a new normalcy for them, like, you know, a kind of, as you said, part of the healing process. And to add insult to injury is just awful, isn't it?
Yeah. And it just really didn't sit right with me. And I felt like something needed to be done. And I just felt like I could help. At the time, I didn't know how I could help. I didn't know what I could do. So like none of it was planned, all this medical stuff. It really, really wasn't planned. In my mind, I was going to go about my tattoo life. And every now and then I'd do a nipple tattoo if somebody wanted it, and I'd just do it on my day off for free. And that would be my way of giving back. And it exploded. It absolutely exploded. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it.
Well, you clearly tapped in. I mean, I remember that first one going viral, you know, and I didn't know it was your first ever one you'd ever done, but like you clearly have, you know, you clearly tapped into a need that people were having. I mean, so how did, from that kind of that lightning bolt moment, how have you iterated your technique? So like, what have you learned about how to do these properly? Like, what works, what doesn't work? Like, what have you learned over the time?
Because I wanted to know everything. So I wanted to know, like, you know, I tattooed over scars and I kind of, you know, I understood it a bit, but I think most tattooers will probably agree with this. You just kind of tattoo over it and hope that it heals okay. I feel like most tattoo artists aren't making like an educated decision when they're tattooing things like that. And I just wanted to know more. I wanted to know about the structure of scar tissue. Why is it different? What is it made up of? What are all these different scars? There's loads of different types of scars. Like, does that mean I would then tattoo that differently? And I think because I went off and I taught myself all those things, you know, I taught myself about radiotherapy, or, you know, I went to, you know, and I found stuff out, spoke to surgeons, and I wanted to know all of those things. And then I think obviously with all the tattoo inside, I could then put it together and be like, okay, so radiotherapy does that to the skin. So what color would I choose because of that? Or would I change my needle because of that? And it just all, wow. All kind of developed, and I think I'm just nerd, really. And
well, this is what we love. This is exactly kind of that much is obvious and delightful and brilliant. I mean, like, did you spend a lot of time just really looking at real and photographs of nipples to really figure out what they look like? Because I think one of the things I also love about your nipples is that they're clearly not just like, you haven't got like a nipple flash thing that you stick on and do, right? They're all individual.
Yeah, they're all like hands on,
yeah, and they have a kind of, you know, you're talking about color theory, but also there's a really interesting use of like, you know, trompe l'oeil, shadow, and like texture that, again, I think is quite, I don't know if it's unique in your work. I haven't looked at enough of other people doing this kind of stuff, but like, it certainly is the kind of thing that separates what you're doing from certainly what I'm sure those amateurs were doing. Like, how do you approach it as a visual problem? Right, like to make this thing look three-dimensional, look real, look like it's part of the body. Like there's a real artistic challenge there that I think is super interesting.
Yeah, it's one of them. Like, it's this, for me, it's about, you want it to look real, but you don't want it to look like a tattoo. So I don't want it to look like a tattoo of a nipple on somebody. I want it to look like an actual nipple on somebody. So there's that element of like softness and almost transparency. So the skin's doing a bit of the talking for you as well. But then you also want it to hold up as a tattoo and make sure it stands the test of time of a tattoo as well. So it's definitely been I say the word trial and error. You know, you see things healed, and I'm always like, right, this is healed like this. So what can I do now to make it heal like this? Or, you know, okay, that colour's healed that way. So what can I do to get it to look a little bit more like this? I'm constantly analysing stuff, always. I'm analysing it as I'm tattooing it. I'm analysing it when it's healed. Like, and just, yeah, I don't know. I thought everyone was like that, but...
No, I mean, you know, again, I was looking at your Instagram earlier today to kind of prep for talking to you, and I'm like, oh, I haven't seen a tattooer post a healed piece on their Instagram for ages, and here you are, like posting healed stuff all the time, like, and stuff that, you know, is super complicated and as you said, soft and intricate and you know, a different kind of visual problem to a lot of people. And you're posting healed work, I think is, you know, a lot of people aren't brave enough to post their healed stuff because they know what it looks like. So, I mean, how do they hold up over time? I mean, this is something that I'm super interested in.
I mean, things age, like all tattoos age, don't they, kind of thing. I think there's a number of things that can affect like how it ages. So like radiotherapy and like chemotherapy have a huge effect on the skin. Radiotherapy, particularly like long term. So that can influence how something's going to age. It usually ages and fades out a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
But I think with the nipple tattoos in particular, because they're not an area that's particularly exposed to the elements, you know, or maybe they are. You're not getting that, you know, it's not the same as like your forearm or your face that's out in the sun all the time and exposed to the elements and things. So that side of the, you know, the external factors that can influence how a tattoo fades and ages kind of thing isn't there as much.
Yeah.
But I think because it is meant to be soft and it is meant to kind of look real, that kind of gradual aging that you see, it's not, it almost like, I don't know, it almost like adds to it a little bit, if you like.
Yeah.
So I do manage people's expectations. You know, it's not, yes, we say we're doing a permanent tattoo on you because it is there forever to a degree. It's still a living, breathing organ. So I do think it's important that you manage those expectations. But I think in the 5 years I've been doing the nipple tattooing, I've had one person come back, I think it was about 4 years later, because she wanted just to sort of sharpen up a few little shadows and stuff.
Right.
So it was sort of like a minor little kind of tweak. It wasn't.
I mean, I've still got the nipples I was born with, but mine could do with a touch up, to be honest with you. So
I think nipples too.
Actually, my nipples are a bit of a mess. I had nipple piercings that got ripped out at a hardcore show. Someone grabbed my shirt and in a pit and pulled both of my nipple rings out at once.
Oh,
so that was fun.
God, savage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's opened me up to a world of all sorts of things. So I do, I enhance natural nipples. Obviously, I work with the gender diverse community after their surgeries, all sorts of cosmetic surgeries, like burns, scars, like the belly button tattoos now for people that have had like DEP surgery.
Oh, tell me about that. So people who've had bariatric surgery and tummy tucks and stuff.
Yeah, I tattoo like 3D belly buttons. You haven't looked at my Instagram very well, have you, Matt? Because there's one.
I'm. Oh, there is one here.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, right here. I said I was just kind of nipple blind. No, there is. Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Oh God, I've done all sorts. It's honest. The medical tattooing now has opened me up to a whole world of ways that tattooing can help people. So I've done like webbed toes. So it's just the tiniest little tattoo that obviously makes the toes look like they're separated.
Wow.
It just makes the person feel like totally different. Yeah, I've tattooed a nostril.
Wow.
Yeah, was like attacked and had the end of their nose bit off, and where it was reconstructed, the nostril shapes were visibly different.
Yeah.
So we tattooed in a little shadow to like even out his nostrils.
Wow.
I've done like fallow tattooing. So when people have had like bottom surgery, obviously it's just plain skin that it's grafted out of, like characteristics. So I've tattooed that. You name it, I've tattooed it now.
Wow.
Like,
I mean, so that does segue me onto the next thing I want to talk to you about, which is actually, how the clients are, how they approach you, and what that's like for you as a tattooer and just as a human being, like that process of people going through those really interesting and maybe recovering from trauma, or for some of your clients, maybe like some of your trans clients, going through the joy of finding their new embodiment. Like, what's that like for you as a practitioner, as an artist, like working with people through those really, really complicated roller coasters of emotion, positive and negative?
It's like, I love it, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love doing what I'm doing, and just, seeing people feel so much more confident, and like when they look at themselves in the mirror, like at their new tattoos and stuff.
Must be great to see them, that smile, yeah.
Like, it is the best feeling. It's so, so rewarding. And you just think, like, I'm just sat here having a great time tattooing, and I get thing, like, I'm just here geeking out, wondering what's happening in the skin, and you've made.
Well, I think like Ed Hardy actually back in the 80s, like in an interview once said that tattooing was a bit like therapy, and I think I don't think it's true probably for all tattoo encounters, but I think for the kind of thing you're doing, there is obviously there is an overtly therapeutic, physical as well as mental process. Did you have to learn how to do that as well? Did you always have that kind of empathy in you? I mean, I get the sense that maybe you did, but that's a real skill too, right? Like, and I think a lot of people who've been around tattooing for a long time, if I say this, people that have been tattooing, that are into their 4th or 5th decade of tattooing, all of the people that I know in that category are just very empathetic and kind people.
Yeah. I think you work with people every day, don't you? You start in more kind of skilled at reading the room, reading people. I do feel like, and that I think that can be missing quite a lot now. I do think people are forgetting that this is a customer facing job. Like, you are dealing with the public. And part of doing your tattoo is to give a good service, like, to the person that's having it done. So it's very one-on-one as well. And
presumably a lot of your clients will never have set foot in a tattoo shop before, right? Like, aren't tattooed in I'm sure some of them are, but not many of them probably won't be tattooed in a conventional way, and probably wouldn't even want to think about themselves as tattooed even afterwards, right?
Yeah, and I get so many people, particularly my older sort of breast cancer clientele, telling me how much they don't like tattoos as well. But it's almost a necessity, isn't it? It's these tattoos have a bit of purpose, the medical side in particular. And and the decorative, like scar and mastectomy tattoos, like they're a little bit more essential to somebody than just decorating your body in a normal tattoo way, if you like. So we see all sorts of different walks of life, different ages, different genders, like, coming through the door. And that was always the idea behind Paradise, my studio, that it was sort of different, if you like. You would kind of walk in and be like, oh, this isn't what I thought a tattoo studio would look like. And that was what I always wanted. I wanted it to accommodate everyone, kind of thing. So I think it's important to be able to engage and empathize with each of your client. You can be working around some really difficult, like, triggers as well, I guess. There can be a lot of trauma there. Even though it's a very positive experience for that someone, it can bring a lot of stuff up. There could be quite a bit of body dysmorphia, a real lack of, like, confidence. People don't want to take their top off in front of you. The only person that might have seen them without a top on is maybe their surgeon. Like, it's not something that I went and trained in. It's actually something that I've started to train in now, like, sort of trauma-informed care. It's one thing that took me by surprise a little bit. I didn't realise, because it was so rewarding. I don't think you realise how much of that person's trauma you then absorb.
I think, well, that's the kind of classic thing with really empathetic people, right? That it can end up being a bit damaging sometimes if you're over empathetic, right?
Yeah.
You can wear that, and you've got to learn to look after yourself too.
Yeah, I think that's something is quite a big thing of mine now, because I do the medical tattooing pretty much every day. I don't really tattoo. Yeah, it's mainly all of that now. So obviously I'm exposed to it quite a lot. So I've definitely had to put things in place now to keep myself safe.
I mean, presumably as well, I having some bits of my body that have some scars on them tattooed occasionally, that presumably there sometimes you get the nerve endings are a bit in the wrong place, and it must be quite acutely painful, or people who aren't used to being tattooed probably find it the process quite painful. I mean, that must be quite tricky as well, right? Like just trying to manage the sensations of getting tattooed. Because I mean, how long does it take to do one of these on average? A nipple?
So for the nipples, like maybe about half an hour.
Really? Wow, you are good.
I don't fuck about.
God, half an hour? Are you serious? Jesus Christ, you're amazing.
Yeah,
I've just been tattooed by the slowest people on earth, probably. Then, but still, right. But that's but it's an intimate area anyway, right? And presumably, with scars and stuff, and tender tissue or recovering tissue, it's going to be potentially quite sensitive.
It can be. I think particularly with like mastectomy stuff, the nerve end, in my experience, the nerve endings are all quite damaged, so people tend to not have a lot of sensation.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
a lot of people, I think with a mastectomy, obviously you're taking away a lot of the tissue and stuff as well. It's not just a surgical incision, if you like. So a lot of people do say that they can feel like the pressure of being tattooed, but not the sharpness sort of thing. Yeah. But then I have had some people, it depends what reconstruction people have had. So there's like a breast reconstruction where they take tissue and muscle from the shoulder and they literally move it round. So obviously everything's left intact. So I'd be tattooing the breast, which is actually sort of back and shoulder tissue, and the patients can feel it in their back.
Oh, what? The nerves are still connected?
Yeah, it's all it's literally just moved it around. It's fascinating. Like,
that's incredible.
Yeah, like hearing about all these different reconstructions they can do, and I just find it so interesting. It blows my mind what medicine can do, but it blows my mind what like the body can do. Like the body just can heal, like, taking tissue from your stomach and then constructing a boob out of it, and your body just heals it and accepts it, and it's like, it's wild what the body's doing.
I had the whole bottom of my skull disconnected and re-screwed on in a different order. So I had like bimaxillary osteotomy, which was also because I've got a weirdly stretched nerve in my lower lip, so I've still got a numb spot on my lower lip.
Wow.
But exactly what you're saying. Like, this shouldn't really be possible. When you look at look at the history of medicine, and you see what people. But also, I guess people were doing like some crazy shit, and not everybody died in the Victorian or even the 16th, 17th century. It's fine.
I always think as well, like, who thought of it? Who thought, do you know what? I'm going to take some pig skin and make a hammock, and that's what that person's implant is going to rest in on their boob.
I mean, there are some apps. If you look at the history of medicine, there are some absolute butchers, and I think maybe it's just like they just picked the one thing that wasn't going to work. I don't think the people who designed things that were successful were any less butchery, to be fair. So do you get referrals now directly from clinics?
Yeah, so I actually work in several hospitals now as well.
Wow.
So I work for the NHS. I'm the first tattoo artist that the NHS ever employed to do nipple tattoos.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's
incredible. I think you must be. That's incredible.
Yeah, I work at the NHS Kingston Hospital in Surrey.
Wow.
Yeah, so I do a clinic there, and then I also work at the Nuffield in Cardiff. So I'm the first tattoo artist the Nuffield ever took on to do medical tattooing. And then I also work for HCA Healthcare UK. So I work at the Harborne Hospital in Birmingham. And I'm the first tattoo artist at HCA UK I've ever taken on to do these tattoos in their facilities as well.
That's amazing. Did they reach out to you? No, that's incredible, Tanya, honestly. Considering, I mean, I'm just thinking of, like, you know, back in the 60s when they were discussing whether to make tattooing illegal or not, right? When the Tattooing of Minors Act came in, part of the discussion was like, well, we can't, if under the NHS, if people get tattooed and then they don't like it, we'll have to pay. You know, one of the arguments for banning tattooing was that it would have to be removed on the NHS if people were sort of psychologically traumatized by it. Oh. And now we have, like, you know, 60 years later, we have people like yourself, like, tattooing for the NHS, like, you know, poacher turned gamekeeper, which is brilliant.
I love it. Like, they approached me as well. Nuffield and HCA Healthcare both approached me as well, which is mental, really. You just think this little teeny tiny tattoo artist, and there's these huge organisations that even fucking know who you are, let alone ask for you to come and work for them.
No, but as you said, you went viral, I think, because you saw a problem and you hit on a, you know, the solution was just all along listen to the people that know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, and, you know, have a kind of interest and a passion in it, which seems to be a solution for most things. I mean, and you're training other people now as well, right? Like, you're now doing some training, presumably better than the one that you saw all those years ago.
I mean, I'd like to think it's better. I spent a really long time putting it together. So I've trained, there's a couple of artists at my studio now. So 2 of my girls at Paradise do the areola tattooing. So we have our little clan, if you like. And then, I have trained a few more tattoo artists. I'm in talks with the NHS at the moment as well, because they've kind of approached me about retraining and supporting the nurses that do the tattooing as well. So that's quite an exciting conversation that's going on, because I think, as much as, like, you know, in an ideal world, like, tattoo artists are the best people for this job. Yeah. But unfortunately, too many people need it. And I think it's best. I just think it's better that we work with the NHS on this. Yeah. Like, we can both learn from each other.
Yeah. And if it's happening anyway, right? Like, it's better that
I'd rather be there to support and, you know, at least try and help them to be as best they can. Yeah. So that kind of is all developing in the background at the moment. But
amazing.
To be honest, I love training. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy teaching people. But all that, now I'm working in all these, like, hospital locations, and obviously with the studio and my charity and everything, I don't dedicate myself to training probably as much as what I should, because I'm still tattooing.
There's only so much time in the day.
I know. I just come up with all these ideas, and the girls at Paradise are like, you just stop saying yes to things, like, you haven't got time.
This is the joy, though, right? Like, you say yes to things and then figure out afterwards. I want to ask you about the charity last, but I wanted to quickly ask you about the issues you have posting your pictures on Instagram. All of the censorship of nipples and you know, because you've also been, was it Celebrated Not Censored? Your
That's
campaign
right,
was called. Yeah. Like, so how? I mean, presumably, what were you getting stuff taken down all the time?
Yeah, it's a really weird one with social media. I find it comes in waves. Like, it'll go through a bit of a period where they take all my pictures down, but then, like, for ages it'll be okay. Like, I haven't quite figured out what it is that makes them take it down, or whether it is literally just the look of the draw sometimes as to whether it's taken down or not. But it is only the female nipples that get taken down. And obviously it's frustrating, because that social media is such a powerful tool now. That is how I reach, you know, as how I've reached most people. And, like, loads of people still aren't aware that this is a thing as well. Yeah. So it's important that it's out there, and it's not just me it happens to. This happens, like, across the board with all people doing, like, nipple tattoos and stuff. So I did start a petition on change.org called Celebrated Not Censored. Just sort of moaning about it, really.
Because ultimately, right, like, that you could argue they're not actually nipples; they're drawings of nipples, right? Like,
yeah, that was my argument as well.
During the was it the Free the Nipple campaign, people were, like, female people were presenting their nipples. They were sticking pictures of male nipples over their own nipples and going, okay, surely is this okay? I'm sure a lot of it must be algorithmic, right? There must just be some image based AI that sees a nipple and automatically flags it because there's no human being looking at these things a lot of the time.
I just think for me, it opens up. It's just so hypocritical and it's such a double standard because it is only the female form that is the issue. And like even in society, like, the tiniest bit of sun comes out and, all the fucking chavs walk around with no top on. But like women aren't allowed to do that. Why? That's a double standard in itself.
It's so arbitrary. Yeah.
But I think, when you see the kind of stuff that is on social media that is allowed on there, some of it is pretty much like actual porn. And that's allowed on there. Yet this picture of, a tattoo that has improved someone's life after they've fought cancer is inappropriate, apparently. And it just then raises the questions like, why do you have a problem with that? Is that because that person's body doesn't fit into this little pigeonhole of beauty? So therefore it's inappropriate. But, when it's some young, skinny, big boobed influencer posting provocative pictures because that's pleasing to whoever decides that this is okay that's on there, that's pleasing to the eye, that can stay on there. But as soon as it's something a bit like, oh, well, I'm not enjoying looking at this female body for my own pleasure, all of a sudden it's inappropriate. Do you know what I mean? It just So
have you been able to get around that? I mean, is this something that is getting easier now? Like, have you had any sensible conversations with these people or not?
No, it hasn't escalated enough to like speak to the powers above. I feel like Meta probably aren't going to give a shit about me and my nipples in the scheme of things. But we have got quite a lot of signatures on the petition now. I think we're nearly at 5,000. So I'm trying to get the petition to 10 because I think that's when they have to discuss it in Parliament. If I'm
right. Yeah.
I think, if I'm really realistic, I think unfortunately it's probably not something that will get changed. But I just think the more we keep shouting about it and raising awareness and stuff, all it's going to do is just elevate the nipple tattooing and get that message out there to people as well. So if the campaign does that and manages to reach somebody that might need a nipple tattoo, then, I'm happy with that as well. Obviously, in an ideal world, I'd like it all to change. But yeah, you got to battle the social media algorithm, at the same time as trying to do your work. And I think the rules just change all the time, don't they?
Right.
So I try and caption everything as clearly as possible, so it's very clear it's an areola tattoo. I make sure I sort of hashtag it so you know what it is. I try and crop things so like not too much of the body is, it's just focusing on the tattoo. But I do feel like it's a very hit and miss thing. I couldn't tell you why they take it down. I couldn't tell you why they don't take another one down. Just guess.
Do you know the work of a performance artist from the 70s called Hannah Wilkie? Have you ever come across her work?
No.
Really incredible woman, like sort of performance artist, photographer. Did a series of works in the 70s where she basically her sort of most famous work is she's like model beautiful, but she stuck like chewing gum all over her face and did kind of self-portraiture naked with chewing gum. And she got a lot of criticism at the time from feminist art theorists. Some were saying like, oh, you can't, this isn't critical of like, the patriarchy or the male gaze, because like you're basically like you're too pretty to have your naked body be anyway critical. Like you're just kind of satisfying the male gaze. The project's called Starification Object, right? But it's an amazing piece, right? But several years later, she got cancer and died ultimately of cancer, but photographed her body like wasting away, but in the same mode as that performance series from when she was younger, when she was beautiful. And all of a sudden, Lucy Lippard in particular, the really famous feminist art theorist, was like, oh, I get it now. like now your body's kind of dying, and I can see the value of the work, right? But there was something kind of problematic about looking at a young, nubile body and seeing it in any way as critical, even though she was kind of engaging with the ideas of being looked at. But literally watching her die, this amazing series called Intravenous. She had lymphoma. That series ends up being a really, really kind of, almost like a vindication, I think is what I'm looking for, like a vindication of her earlier projects. Check out Hannah Wilke's Starification Object series. You'll dig it, because she's very interested in, I think, some of these same issues, right, about beauty and normalcy, and there's a whole series where she's like basically completely naked with like chewing gum stuck all over herself to kind of disrupt the...
I think it's the same thing, isn't it? It's kind of like when a woman's body isn't like conforming to what whoever decides what looks good. It's like, when that body doesn't conform to these beauty standards, all of a sudden it's like, oh well, that's not really appropriate for the internet then. Like, it's just I just think it's bullshit as well. Like, and then the ironic part is it's not even a nipple anyway, it's a pissing tattoo of one. It's just like
so we're coming up to about an hour, but I want to just finish up by talking about the charity. So tell us about the charity, and I guess tell us if people want to get involved and help support it, where can they find out more about it and support what you're doing?
So the MTA, the Mastectomy Tattoo Alliance, is a charity that I founded in 2021, I think it was. And it basically kind of came about, I was doing the nipple tattoos, like I said earlier, just sort of, my idea was I was going to do them for free, just sort of on my day off, and thinking I'd do it very as and when, but it became very busy very quickly. So I was doing quite a few clinics a week, which then impacted my income. So I sort of thought, if there's a way that I can still get paid, or at least kind of cover my costs, and people could still kind of either have it free of charge, or, at least have some financial support towards it if they need it, then, everyone's happy. So that was the idea behind the MTA, basically, that we would kind of be a bit of a trusted source about the tattooing. So if, you have any questions, we'd be that source of information for people. But also, our directory of artists that we've sort of approved, that if you go to an MTA artist, that they're experienced, they've kind of been vetted a little bit. So, you're in safe hands. And then kind of on top of that, if you then did need the financial support, we could also help you with that, we have a gift voucher scheme.
Oh, great.
Where we contribute towards the tattoo through our MTA artists. So it's I'm really proud of it. It's still quite small.
Mainly in the UK still, but you've got at least one artist in the US now.
Yeah, we're just about to announce a second US artist, and also an artist in Europe. So, we're getting there. But it was always, I always wanted a directory of quality, not quantity, if that makes sense. So, I'm still a one-man band, so I can only do so much.
You're an absolute force of nature, Tanya, honestly.
Oh, thanks. So it's getting there. We're signposted by some real big organisations now. I co-wrote a mastectomy tattoo blog for breast cancer now, and they signpost the MTA in that blog as well, which is really nice. The NHS kind of signpost the MTA to patients as well, and we've opened the funding structure to the gender diverse community now as well, which was always something I wanted to do. We started off in the beginning, it was just sort of breast cancer related mastectomies, but I always wanted to open it up to everyone, because the tattoos aren't accessible to everybody all the time, right. And a lot of sort of top surgery has to be paid for privately,
increasingly scarily, awfully
on top of it. It's a lot for people. So it was always important to me that we did open that up to other communities, when we had the manpower, when we had the funding behind us. So we did open it up last year to the transgender and non-binary community as well, which I'm really proud of. And it's not nipple tattoos, we can kind of help with decorative mastectomy tattoos as well. So if anybody wants to get involved, like, we're always looking for, experienced artists as well. Or if you kind of want to, if you are experienced but you want to train in it a little bit more specialized, and then kind of join the charity from there, like that, those options are available as well. Or even if you just want to fundraise for us, whether you want to do a sponsored run or make a donation, we are organising a tattoo fundraising event. We've done it every year since, in October, just to sort of mark Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I organise like a tattoo fundraising flash day. So we have studios across the UK just doing a flash day throughout the month of October, like in aid of the MTA. So that'll be happening again this year as well. So yeah, if you wanted to do a flash day for us, you could join. There's loads of details on the website.
So the website is mastectomytattooingalliance.org. Right?
Yeah.
And then there's also the Mastectomy Tattooing Alliance Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've done some stuff with the lovely Bloody Mary Metal, who I've known for years as well.
Yeah. We have a ring and a necklace. So donations are made, like every time a necklace and stuff, you buy a necklace, like a certain amount sold, donated to the MTA. We're just about to, we're partnering up with Stories in Ink as well, the aftercare brand.
Right.
They're pledging to kind of fundraise and support us as well. So yeah, it's getting there.
Honestly, incredible. It's been such a pleasure chatting to you, Tanya. So we've talked about charity. Where can people find you? Where's your stuff online?
Me? So you can find me on Instagram. It's just Tanya Buxton, just my name. You might have to type my whole name in because a lot of the time I'm shadow banned.
Oh, right. Okay. Too spicy for Instagram. Tanya with a Y.
Shadow.
And your studio is in Cheltenham, Paradise Tattoo, right?
Yeah, Paradise Tattoo Studio is in Cheltenham. If you want to follow us on Instagram as well, it's just paradise_Cheltenham. We're an all-female team. Not intentionally, it's just kind of how it's worked out at the moment. Boys are welcome. But you can see all the girls' work on there as well, and all the different types of tattooing we all do.
Fantastic. It's honestly such a pleasure to chat to you. Thanks for coming on. I'm sure, I know Tom will be frustrated that he wasn't able to be here today. Thanks to everyone, as always, for listening. I don't know when Tom's putting this out, but if you're listening to this before the Bristol Tattoo Convention, me and Tom are going to be there with Olivia Dawn and Josh Davies, with some amazing stuff based on some historic Japanese flashbooks. We'll announce more about that next week. Keep an eye on our Instagram. As always, this has been Beneath the Skin. Thank you so much, Tanya, again, and thanks to everyone for listening. Bye-bye.
Having me.